Hey, hi, welcome back to Christine's Corner. I'm so glad you did. I had mentioned at another show that my special guest tonight, Richard Jackson, a spiritual mentor, he's here again and he's going to talk more about animals, past and now, and then we'll go from there. We talked about the amulet that he did, that he carries, and it helps a lot. But I had asked him something about my cat has passed away, and I wondered if my cat returned in spirit and jumped on my bed because it just felt like I got the warmth. And you said it could be.
I've worked with what's called the New Haven Cat Project, and the Virginia Equine, and all the King's Horses Equine Rescue there in Brantford. So throughout my working with this stuff, I've also been working with animals at times. And I learned a lot from the animals, but I've also learned a lot about that end, because that isn't, that was something that I took on, years after I was already doing this work and using, the gifts that I seem to have, et cetera. And so, and I'm very partial to animals. I always have cats and dogs at the house, and have years with horses and things. And
they're very good when you're sick.
Amazing.
My cat wouldn't leave my side, and she's like purring on my head and patting it.
When we
followed me to the bathroom and back.
It's actually a good thing if somebody has a house that spiritually seems a little off, or it's just big, or it's something's just not right all the time. Sometimes if you just have the love of a pet or two for that person or the family, everything's lighter. Sometimes we've told people, just get an animal in here. There's just more love in a house. Sometimes that will make a house simply seem much warmer, sweeter than at other times when there's not that love going around. And that animals mimic. I mean, I will call my dogs and cats sometimes. I mean, I don't do it every day. It might be, I don't do it for a month, and I might do it 3 out of 5 days, and then a week later. But I do it to maintain that connection. And people have asked me, like, I had a little teeny dog, and then I got another dog, a year later, and he's behaving like the other dog did. Could he be reincarnation? He's a big dog, but he's behaving like a little Shih Tzu. We've never seen people say, I haven't seen a German Shepherd do that. He's acting like a lap dog. It's because the new dog is watching the dog who is supposedly, gone, but their body's gone, but they're not gone. If you're a dog or cat, you're going to stay where you're loved, and that's their heaven. So the new dog is looking at somebody who's been before. They know the ropes, and they behave a lot. I say I must have heard that 50 times from people, and I told them exactly what I just said to you, and they went, thank you.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, is it always true? I don't know, but it is true sometimes.
Not to change the subject, but change the subject. We were going to go over this list of questions you had sent me. So we're going to see how far we get on it.
Yes.
And the number one on top of your list, AI. What is AI, and what's that mean to you? I know it's in the news a lot.
Yes.
Do you think they're going to control and take over the world?
Artificial intelligence is the intelligence that's coming from something other than people. Or let's say, I don't know if it's defined this way, people or beings that are above us, the saints, the martyrs, people of a godlike structure, within any religious confine. Outside of that, any intelligence is the intelligence that comes from computers, that comes from crystals. Don't forget that either.
Crystals?
Yeah, crystals is what got the Mr. Marconi took a slice of a quartz crystal to be able to use it as a transistor to receive electronic data with an antenna, the first radio.
Wow.
And it was actually invented in the same year by two guys, and both were in Italy, which I found pretty interesting. It's just where they went, and they, our world's better because of it. But the artificial intelligence is the idea that we can have computers that can make robots work and that can learn things and then teach other machines what they've learned, and then even make decisions on they need to know more and seek out that information. Now, when is anything like that going to happen on Earth? Oh, that's already here. And the idea is that in the last 2 weeks, the amount of people who are CEOs and inventors, scientists, top in their field. We're not talking about media people, even those who we like. I mean, we're not talking about anybody hyping for their career or they're onto a story that has some validity. We're talking people who are saying, we may have gone too far. We may have created something that we'll regret. I'm not so sure of that. There's a lot of intelligence in this world, and it is in animals, it's from divine, and why not machines? But when we start depending on them to make our decisions for us, when they start making things, making new replacements for themselves, what do they need us for?
Yeah.
So all the implications there are enormous, but that's why all of a sudden it's in the news. So it's probably a good place to stop, because otherwise we'll go on with that for 2 hours.
Yeah, no, let's go to the next one. I love the questions, and I'm glad I can read them. You said sound and light. What part of our lives depend on both in all manner of life?
What was that? Oh, yes. The parts of the language that we don't just speak, but is spoken to us, is light. The light that we see things illuminated. For example, light is basically from anything we see in the universe. There's exceptions, but let's say in its enormity, is something usually connected in the most vast way. Is hydrogen burning creates light. Light, when it touches something that's burning, creates a derivative of oxygen called ozone. Somewhere there might have been a little crossover, and whoops, oxygen and hydrogen come together, and now you have water. And, it's funny because water is probably the best example, and in increasing amounts, anybody who's watching this show, I can promise you all you have to do is simply be alive. Because as the years tick by, we will find the significance of water is so beyond anything that you or I were taught when we were young. Water literally has a life all of its own. It has feelings, emotions, and capabilities that, let's just say, water can be holy without it being made into holy water, just by the crystals that form from that simple hydrogen and oxygen, two and one oxygen, two hydrogen, one oxygen. For some reason, it's allegedly like an elaborate snowflake, like gorgeous connection. And we are about light. We're beings of light. When I see things, phenomenon, it's always having to do with color or light or the absence. When I've been in a room that the house is supposedly haunted, maybe I felt a little something, I saw something, but, that could happen anywhere. And all of a sudden the lights go off and it seems very dark. But all of a sudden, you see the fireplace. I see Andy and Scott and Rita and the people I'm in the room with, investigators. And then somebody said, oh, it's here. And you could tell something changed in the room. You heard like a moaning sound, and you felt the presence of something not good. the air got heavy, and then I experienced for the first time, and not the last, the room turned inky black
Wow.
in a way that I could do this all day long. I will not see my hand.
Ugh.
There is almost no darkness unless you really put yourself in like a closet and everything is sealed. But this is a place where you look outside a window and there's a half a moon out. You can see the trees outside in swings, irregardless. Inside, it was so black that once it started turning that density, which is spiritual, you couldn't even see outside the window. Everything was blocked. I don't know how far you saw, but it's truly the utter absence of God's light. And the Hebrews, the beginning of the Hebrew, the Muslim, the Christian world, it was all about the light. It's all about the light, God's light. In fact, Jesus' name is not Jesus Christ for Christians. It was actually Jesus of the Christ, which got shortened. His real name, if I said it in Hebrew, would be a little more difficult, but it's Jesus, son of Joseph, from the town of Nazareth, who's a Levite. Because they didn't have last names in those days. It hadn't happened yet. But Christ was the brightest light that God could ever give us in the world we inhabit. So that tended to mean the Messiah. That's why Christ. Christ is light. Christ means light in Aramaic.
Yeah. Is there spiritual warfare, at this time?
Yes, very much so.
I mean, it seems that not even knowing what you know, people are going so fast and they're short-tempered and
there's our spirits, not our psychology, not our instincts, but just what drives us we're almost a victim of our own success. So, when you find you can work, very hard and, maybe it's not always paying the bills, but, you don't have the greatest job in the world, but you have a little place to live. You have a car, you go on vacation, you jump on a plane, you have a closet full of clothes. You have, 4 cabinets in your kitchen filled with food, some downstairs, full refrigerator. Not everybody in the world has that. And we forget how important that is. But for a spirit, they need energy. So any spirit that's not here because they're a loving human being, they're an animal spirit, they're a loving angel, a guardian angel, a nature spirit, they're here because they either are stuck here and they need help, or they're here for one reason, to get energy from you.
Oh, from me, I'm thinking energy from electricity.
Also, I've seen electric bills on haunted places go from $200 to $800 for 4 months, within rounding it off. And then it finally, the second time we finally quelled it. This was actually Warren's case in Fairfield. And the electric bill, when it was solved, went right back to 2 and change. They were just, I don't know how, because in another situation would that have happened? No. But in other situations, people will tell you, or a house that has a significant spiritual activity, sometimes some or all of the people say it's a little bit tiring. Some say it's utterly exhausting. Mm. And it is. They're using your energy, and sometimes it's not done intentionally. It's done by just the law of what is.
So when you see lights flickering, it could be them.
Absolutely, because it's all about that energy. So they may be doing it on purpose. They may be affecting things in some way.
I noticed with myself, it's when someone has passed and they're letting me know that they've passed. Mm-hmm.
If they know you might look for it, they're more apt to do it. Yeah. But you might be aware of it. So, as people got to know you, and especially we've been touching into this for some years now, that's likely to happen.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's the fruits of spirit.
What's the something of technology? I'm sorry, I didn't read this part.
Oh, what's the downside of technology?
Oh, downside. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The downside of technology is There's a real spiritual reckoning there. We begin to specialize in things because things we used to work really hard for, we don't need to worry about getting kindling and lighting a match and getting flint and getting a stone and having a little something in our pockets to start a fire, which sometimes can take a while. We take out our Bic and we light it. Now, that's a good thing. But when technology begins to replace other things, it's not always the best thing. And then when we begin to rely on technology because it's easier, but that doesn't always mean it's better. We depend on fast food because we can make something and we can put some preservatives in it and put it under a lamp and it stays good for 2 weeks. Anybody who has bread in your refrigerator for 3 weeks and there's no mold on it, maybe that's a problem.
Yeah, I was like, this is too weird. I don't think I can eat this. I know there's no mold on it, but this is. I mean, I was around when you could only have bread 2 or 3 days, and you got to throw it out.
Yep. And that's, look, potassium sorbate's probably okay, but there's other things that are not okay. And it gives us the excuse to want more things to make our life comfortable, which may take us further away from the things that make us great. And it's just something we should know, even as we move ahead and move forward is fine, but we should always know everything we do has ramifications, spiritually too.
Oh, we got 10 minutes. It seems like...
It does fly, doesn't it?
It does. So we did the downside. What would be the upside then?
The upside is we have these little machines. One is called a lever. Okay? One is the screw, an inclined plane, a spiral staircase, a regular screw, how it works, and how we drill for oil. That's another machine. Another one is the pulley. These are actually the machines. I think there's 6 main ones. One is an inclined plane. Mm-hmm. And I know I'll remember, why didn't I say that one? But those are good, but then it starts to become in other things. And other things start to become electric. It starts to become circuits. It starts to bounce off satellites. It does these wondrous things. If you have a boat, and you used to have what was called land and ocean radio antenna or something. I might have missed that a little bit, but it's something like that. It triangulates where you are within 50 yards. Well, now we have SATCOM.
What's that?
SATCOM is satellite communication. You have a little $120 device on your boat that tells you where you are within 5 feet of anywhere on this earth.
Oh.
That's wonderful. Does it take the happiness out of sailing? No. But what if the machine is wrong? Every machine is capable of breaking. Every compass can get stuck, and you could go north and realize, I should have looked before that. I should have been smarter. Oh my God, we've been going in the wrong direction. Anything that can help us could hurt us. It's really as simple as that.
Yeah, it's like the person still needs to be next to it to make sure the machine's doing its job. I mean, you wouldn't have tools if they didn't break down. So, yeah, as long as they don't say, "Well, I don't need you," and kill you, So.
Well, yeah, and that's something coming to about the artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
When our technology winds up saying, "What do we need you for?"
Yeah. Let's see. Are spirits being affected by our world?
What is?
I know you just said our spirits
Oh.
being affected by our world.
Oh, yeah. Actually,
Is the world being
Yeah, because I actually heard that and went, what? Because I was, as I wrote that down, I went, what do I mean?
Yeah, it's actually the world. Is the world being affected by spirits?
We also affect spirits. And sometimes that's why they come to us. Okay, what do we mean by that? Because that's pretty vague. All right, I'll give you a good and a bad and a neutral. So a neutral is, people might call this conjecture. I don't. I've seen it too much. I filmed it too many times for us to simply not at least understand or take into consideration that there's probably something that we call a guardian spirit or angel that has some validity to it. And yeah, we do. One of the things, and I'd long since understood that when I did a big lecture on it at Lilydale, the spiritualist world headquarters, and then I offered to, of the 40-something people that came that weekend, we took pictures trying to get their guardian spirit. 7 or 8 of them, we have, one shot. 7 or 8 had either a tall figure or a big, big blue ball of light, usually to their right in back of them. And when I was introduced to what I believe is mine, it was just amazing that somehow is part of the intelligence that goes beyond us, beyond all of us linked together, further on into what we would call the Godhead, the source. Yeah, there has to be somebody keeping track of who we are. And we asked them, and somehow, it may not be that minute, but when you ask for help out loud, don't do it quietly, don't be shy. Something usually does try to connect and come up with that answer. And people go, I didn't know what to do for like years, and then I just said it out loud a few times. I was wondering, and the next week it was like somebody gave me the answers. Like every day somebody would walk in. I couldn't get an answer out of anybody for years. Sometimes we have to put it with faith and say it, because if we don't say it, it doesn't really happen. There's no such thing as silent prayer, by the way. I know I'm slipping that in, but that's really important for people. You could calm yourself. Meditation's wonderful. You can bring yourself to a higher state of being. But if you want to really communicate, you have to open your mouth.
I have a question that's off book.
Okay.
Can spirits make things happen to people, like lose their keys for them, misplace their key, or a book, or an accident, or you tripped over and you broke your leg? Can they do things like that?
Yeah. A lot of times it's often not as mischievous as it might look. Sometimes it's just a little bit of overload, but it can happen on many levels. Here's a real quick one. Can something be on a table, and all of a sudden you get a phone call and you reach for it and you go, oh my God, I was expecting your call. And then you go to take your ring back and it's gone.
Yeah, that happened to me.
And 5 years later, you're at a friend's house or a new place that you moved, and you're taking down your Christmas tree, and right on the star is that ring. Did that happen to me? No, but it was a St. Michael medal that I lost in the cracks of an attic in a case that the woman of the house, who was we became very, very involved and very good friends, and we still are to this day, and the kids, and all I know is my St. Michael's medallion was returned to me at the oddest time on a Christmas tree, and it's called an apport or aport. And among people who are more seasoned, really dealing with the paranormal, yeah, that does happen and can happen. Is it common? No. But can something, by simply getting us a little bit like off center, have something happen or change the energy around so we're likely to fall or trip or forget something?
Yeah, make it look like there's something wrong with you. And
a lot of times.
Or you just forgot you moved it. Or
I would say it happens. It can be, but it's usually not intentional. When it is, it's very intentional, but it's usually not. It's usually part of, it's like too many spirits around will make a person nutty. It also, in a truly haunted area, that's like one area was a Black Hope, I think it was Black Hope, Texas, and the UCLA used to have a lady who ran the department, Thelma Moss, and she was my first teacher. And they buried many slaves there in a cholera epidemic, and they didn't forget about it, but no one really thought about it when 150 years later they built a development. It was like every fourth person. All the houses, almost everyone complained there was some spiritual activity. It wasn't all that terrible, but the rate of cancer was 12 times normal.
You can get cancer?
I never forgot that. Yeah, because anything that could make a noise or jingle or appear on film could affect us on a cellular level. Cancer is the breakdown of the cells, walls, and its ability to reproduce itself in a healthy way, by definition.
A quick question, because we only have a minute or two.
Of course.
How did you know that you have the gifts, these gifts of, like putting spirits on your photograph, or knowing something about that person, what might happen to them, or?
At the tender age of almost 39, I moved in my friend's big farmhouse, thinking maybe I'll buy it, but I certainly have a nice place to live for a year. And he would laugh, not believing in any of this, about tales of the plumber never coming back, and this one and that one. And I just said, hey, this is great. I was fresh from Vermont, kind of in my hippie mode still a little bit. I was a general contractor in my late 20s. And when I came to New Haven. Now I'm 38, and things are going pretty well for me, but we had to change location. I wasn't ready to buy yet. I moved in with my daughter. From the moment I came into that house, the banging is on the roof. The things that happened are so beyond the pale. It didn't have to be as like absolutely drastic as it was. I saw things and witnessed by 7 or 8 people that have never, and these are people who have television shows now, they've never seen that until then and not since. Like what was called ectoplasm, which is something that doesn't exist. It looks like glowing jello the size of like this whole wall area was going in and out of the walls and ceilings and kind of lighting up cracks between wood that were like tongue and groove. How does light come through? We all sat in amazement for about 20 seconds. 7 people all fell asleep. It just, those were, it was, by the way, it was the ghosts of people who had lived in that house and died of typhoid in 1710.
Wow.
And they were using everyone's energy. So I said, I'm staying up for this. I lasted about 3 more seconds. It was like,
wow. Wow. That is rough.
But you learn valuable lessons.
Though, and you don't mind doing this still.
Yeah, I mean, right now my body can't take too much, but I'm finding that helping people finding their own spiritual worth can sometimes offset emotional, mental stuff, because they're all like parts of who we are. So, look, if I could bring anything to the table for somebody, including myself.
Do you have a website for more information?
Yeah, it's richardpjackson.com. And it's my number, and there's a contact in there. You got to remember the P. And very soon, and it will make its announcement on the site and elsewhere, there'll be a new site, and it will be called Freaking Truth, with no space, freakingtruth.com. So sometimes I get my site, and sometimes I get a hardware store, but when it's up intact, I think that it'll be easy to get. And I'm loving this new site and the work and what will happen from it. It's what I've been waiting for years.
Oh, excellent. You can put your interviews on there too if you want.
Oh, we're going to be there, believe me.
All right. Well, thank you again, Richard, for coming on the show. It's always delightful. Thank you, of course, and always, for tuning in to Christine's Corner. I love you. Have a good day.
And may the brightest of spirits be yours.
Yeah.